Good afternoon, Facebook community and YouTube community. This is Dr. Cecily, and welcome to my channel, Transformational Leadership. Look, I got something I just looked at it yesterday. I looked at it over and over again, and I'm an ID buff, a discovery buff. I look at Tamara Hall. I look at all of them, not because of the goriness of the crimes. Yes, they're gory, but I like to see the technology, how they connect the trace evidence to the criminal. Now, I have 13 years as an officer and a sergeant at Wayne County Sheriff's Department, so I have some insight on how the law enforcement should be handled. In fact, if you look at those shows that I just mentioned, you'll know they always use trace evidence to connect back with the criminal. And also, the reason why I'm doing these leadership series, because I believe the Lord has given me this platform during this time of the murdering George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks and all the murdering that they have been doing since the beginning of time, okay, over 400 years. Now, I'm also received my degree, and I just want to say, because people are online falsifying who they are, but this is my degree, and you can see it's with high distinction. Cecily Denise Cornish, Doctor of Philosophy. So I just want to do that because some people are so unethical, and if I'm calling for leadership to be ethical, then I have to follow suit as well. Now, I just seen this documentary. Our mayor in Atlanta, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, has reopened the child murders, the Atlanta child murders back in I think it started from 1973 to for several years. Okay, there were 29 children that were murdered, and I mean they were murdered in a sense that they were just thrown all over Atlanta. I mean, like in broad daylight. And I just want to let you know, the mayor said she was 7 at the time. She's 47. She's a former lawyer and a former judge. So she's saying that she's using this new technology, to try to find out, use the trace evidence or whatever evidence is left over to find out who the killer is. Now, all you ID buffs, discovery buffs, you know they always try to connect the trace evidence back to the killer, because it will lead to not only location but people and things. We know this. Now I want you to keep that in mind, bear that in mind. So back then, remember, Atlanta was not going through the civil rights problems as the other, like Detroit was. I was raised and born in Detroit. Now, we had our rights and everything, but Atlanta was seen as the gateway to the world. They had this image they wanted to keep. Now let's just look at the setting. It was the first black mayor, which was Mayor Maynard Jackson. He was our first black mayor. Atlanta was not suffering, and also, it's the home of Martin Luther King Jr. So Atlanta at the time wasn't suffering all that civil unrest, but these kids start coming up murdered. I mean, these kids were not just, and it was no modus operandi. It was different. It was like they were just killing them. They were, or just choking them. They was, one young girl, she was strangled to the tree with a rope. We had the boys, they were blunt force trauma to the head, stabbed in the front and the back. I mean, there was no really modus of operandi, which led, I know in my black community up north, we already said it was the Ku Klux Klan. We already said it, either police or Ku Klux Klan, because we always told our mothers and fathers and our grandparents always had this conversation, how to respond with the officer, because they said our brothers and sisters are being killed. And I liked what Will Smith said. He says, this is nothing has changed. It wasn't his exact word, but just a paraphrase. He said, nothing has changed as far as the mass murdering of our black brothers and sisters, and our brown sisters and our yellow sisters and brothers, but it's because of the technology. That's what Will Smith said. And I feel this to be the same today. Now, let's get back to the culture back during that time. It was Atlanta's first black mayor, Mayor Maynard Jackson. And on top of that, there was a thriving Georgia was thriving and Atlanta was thriving because black people were, they were, they were making headways in terms of education in the schools and the different businesses. Even today, they still are, people are still coming to the South like me. And so they had that campaign, Come Back to South, then, and people were coming, and it still come today, as the documentary will show you. And the people down here, they have their own business. But back then, they had this image that it was a thriving black city of entrepreneurs, and they wanted to keep it like that. So when the killings start happening, the story starts with them showing 16 people, 16 kids get murdered. And I mean, these kids are in broad daylight. Let me tell you what, broad daylight. Sorry, y'all, with some ducks, but I want to make sure. But broad daylight, these kids were getting killed. And the people and the parents was telling their people, look, these got somebody, it got to be somebody we know, because it was Atlanta South and it was in the projects. Not only that, when they made a newspaper article, they said, oh, these are black kids from the hood. So already you know what that stigma was. Oh, we don't care. So it was not until Sammy Davis Jr. and Muhammed Ali, he donated some money, but Sammy Davis Jr., the celebrities, and I forgot his name. Anyway, they got Frank Sinatra. They got together and did a benefit and raised money. Then the FBI came in after the 16th killing. Now, this is how they were killing the people. The young girl was tied to the tree with a rope. Some was stabbed in the front and back. I mean, it's just gory. They're just missing. And then one kid, they found out, when they found out, the serial killer found out. Now, the black community felt it was a series of people, that it was just not, and even the FBI agent, if you notice in the documentary, because it's called The Reopening of the Metro Atlanta Murders, Children Murders. It's a reopening case. It's by Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, and Will Packard is the director of the film. Now, they got a couple mothers that's narrating. Now, the one that really touched my soul was this one, because remember, the age of these 29 kids was from 7 to 16. Now, when they got ready to, the FBI came in only because after the national attention and because the celebrities were coming forward, then they came on the case. And then they said, well, we'll treat it like kidnapping. Well, the other 16 had been missing, but because of the attention, the national attention, then the FBI came in and they said, we'll treat it as kidnapping. And this case was called Atlanta Kids. So when they got ready to do the profile, they said, well, oh, this person's probably, now remember, the black people saying that, they think is, look, up north, we already said it was either the Ku Klux Klan and the cops. Now, this is going to be very interesting. So just follow with me and listen to the trace evidence. So when after the 16th murder, they found out that they had these beige fibers on the tip of this boy's head to the sole of his feet, even in his gym shoe. And I think this little boy was they thought he was thrown off his bike or hit his head, because he was up against, I mean, they was just throwing the bodies anywhere. He was up against a dumpster in the alley, and he's sitting up, but apparently they had not only stabbed him in the front, but stabbed him in the back. And he had these fibers in his shoes they believed that those fibers was he was either moved from another location, either a house or either a vehicle. Now, when they get ready, they also showed this documentary of this woman. She had a baby named Angel. She was in hospital because the baby remember, they had 2 or 3 mothers that narrated the story. Now, this really touched my heart. She said the people, when she had her baby, Angel was her name. She said, now that was the youngest, was 7 years old. She said, now I don't forget about what point that she got killed, but she was the one tied by the neck to a tree. The hospital said, oh, she's the only baby who didn't cry. She's an angel. So her mother called her Angel. And it was so sad to hear the mother had asked the daughter some days before her death, before they found her, because the brother came to the mother and said, Mom, Angel not acting sad, because Angel was always bright, she was always bubbly. And then Mom said, well, what's wrong, Angel? Angel said the girl had a premonition of her death. She said, Mama, something gonna happen and you can't do nothing about it. That girl was found dead with a rope around her neck, okay? And she went to the morgue, and they showing in the documentary she went to the morgue crying. Now, we gonna get to this. Everybody thought Wayne Williams was charged for those murders. He never was. Now let's get to trace evidence. So the FBI comes in. They say, okay, they profile. This is a top intelligent person. This is a person that's a loner, and they just they got the profile. Then they had an FBI or GBI. One of them said, well, let's do this. Let's make a sting, because remember when they start getting those trace evidence and those fibers, and they put it in the news, then the killers, I believe were killers, start throwing the bodies over in the river. Now, so remember, that was the 16th kid when the FBI came in. Now, we still got something going. And then at that time, I think it was 13 was missing and 14 was dead. Ended up being 29. So they did a sting. So they said, okay, let's do this. One guy came to a supervisor and said, we'll set a sting. Because I know if they throw the body over, we can set a sting, but we have the vehicle under the bridge. And when we hear the water splash, then we'll notify the cars up front. So we'll block the bridge. Now, let me get to this. Now, just keep in mind the beige fibers. Now, I want you to also look at this. The black FBI agent in the documentary said this. He said more than likely there was a series of killers. Probably a black man, because remember, he was somebody that didn't stand out, so he probably was black. Then he probably was a police officer. Police officers come there. Or he could have been Ku Klux Klan. Because remember, the kids were down at the Omni Center, and they would be all over the city being found dead. And probably a pedophile. But the white FBI agent, and I want to bring attention to him, he said more than likely that it was one killer. Now, what the FBI did was they came and they used the FBI said they stepped in because they're going to use it as kidnapping cases. Remember, these mothers been coming to them and they said, oh, your kid probably is okay, Let me tell you what trace evidence says. I just want to give you a little short definition. Forensic scientists use trace evidence to reconstruct crimes and to describe the people, places, and things involved in them. So I remember about the beige fibers. Now, let's get to what happened to this young man. I think it was a cousin. They were down by the Omni Center. And we all know Angela was found dead with a rope around her neck. We all know about the young man that was found by the garbage can, stabbed in front with a bicycle. Like I said, they started dumping the bodies in the river. But this young man ended up missing, and it was at the Omni Center downtown. And so remember, everybody was sticking together in groups. So they seen this white man following them, so they called the hotline. They said they're going to send a police car. So, find out, the young man comes up dead. His friend comes up dead because he got tired of waiting for police and left, which was a grave mistake. He ended up dead in the river. And they're looking for him. And so, but nobody ever sent a car. Come to find out, the mother was describing, or the aunt or whoever, I think it's her stepson, she said they never sent a car. Never sent a car. They said they was going to send a car. Never sent a car. And they never, during the whole entire documentary, tried to go and investigate or ever try to speak to that young man about the description of the car or anything. It was a white man. So moving on up. So, but then there was another case, was this young man, and this was very powerful because this what made Wayne Williams not get out for his parole in 2019. And you can look that up. What happened was, this was this young man. Now, he was 7 years old. His brother was 16. His brother said, we're going to all stay together. This is Atlanta. Just going to get close to home. But the young man, who was 7 then, he said he never thought it was going to get that close. Now he's a young man. He got a child. He was a main witness that prevented Wayne Williams from getting out in 2019 because he had a tape where somebody went to interview him. Now, this is the thing. They never charged Wayne Williams with them 29 murders. Go and look. They only charged him for 2 life sentences for those 2 males. So really it was 29 kids and 2 young black males. And they said they were challenged and they were like 21 years old. But they were like, they had deficits in, in their thinking, their cognitive thinking. And so they probably couldn't defend themselves. But they think they chased some of their fibers back to his house, which were green fibers. Now follow me with the fibers now. Now, when they end up, this young man that was 7 years old, his brother was overprotected, would take him to the bus stop, and he would take him home. More almost every day. Sometimes he said he wouldn't pick him up, but he would meet him at the house. He said this particular day his brother wasn't pick him up, and he wasn't at the house. Well, come to find out, his brother ended up dead. That's the one was 16. I think they between the ages of 7 and 16, and that was his brother. He said that months later, weeks later, he was going to the store from the project. He was going down the stairs and it was dark. He said that this man, now remember, they said he probably was quiet. They gave the profile intelligent. Now, when they seen that, he said that when he came up them stairs, he stopped because he said he thought about. First, he thought about his brother. Then he thought about that his brother was murdered. And then he thought about, oh my God, this must be the man. He said, panic stepped in. Then he ran and he knocked on Willie Mae's door. Willie Mae, open the door. Open the door. Open the door. Willie Mae, open. He said, he's banging on the floor. The woman opened the door. The man walked up towards him. Walked up to 5 feet away now. So you can't say he couldn't see him. He said he saw that uneven fro and the rim glasses. That's why I believe that Wayne Williams was one of the killers, but not the killer of all those kids. So he said the guy, he said he wanted to see him. He said he came into the light, I could see. He said I could see his round rim glasses. I could see he had those jacket with the patch on that he said he hated today. And that was just the attire that Wayne Williams wore. He wore jackets and, just looked like he was a student and an educator. And he went down the back stairs. But he said that man wanted to see him. But he said he was calm. So let's bring it up. So body still being killed. Just found up every kind of way, stabbed, hit over the head. It was just gruesome the way these kids were found. And then there was nothing done. So somebody said, well, let's do a trap. Now the trap was, we know that when the body hits on the water, you hear a splash. And so, with ID and discovery, you always try to attach the time, to place that person in doing the time of the crime. Now, he heard the person at the car, heard the splash in the water. They notified the 2 cars up on the bridge. Now, why he got to the second bridge, I don't understand, because it ended up being on I-28, I-285. But I wonder why you need to stop him on the first, right there, at the bridge. So, the FBI and the GBI, now listen, the black FBI, if you notice in the documentary, he said there probably were killers. Now, we already knew. We thought up north, probably was Ku Klux Klan, police officers, probably pedophiles, and probably a black man. That's what we think, but we see Ku Klux Klan and right-off police officer. Now, with the backdrop of today, we see that America has continued to murder our unarmed black and brown people. It's obvious. That's why I understand why, being a former officer and a sergeant, that's why I see why they're doing it in broad daylight. You shouldn't have immunities. When you already said in your program, see no evil. If you catch a person in that location at the time of the crime, you got your killer. So why is these people walking and getting bonded out and talking about they're not in danger? Yes, they are. They are in danger. But see, this is the thing. The FBI agent said there was a series of killers. The white FBI agent said, no, there's one killer. Then on top of that, when they, where was I? They were talking about, so we see about that young man that seen Wayne Williams. All right. Okay, so they were on the bridge. Now the FBI agent, when they stopped Wayne Williams on I-28, 285. The FBI agent, and he said this today. This is what he said. He said, I walked to him and he was calm. Oh, so we just supposed to be scared because you the FBI agent and you all in your suit and you got all your officers with you. That's what he said. I'm like, well, that sounds narcissistic. We trying to find out who killed these kids. So he said he looked inside and he seen gloves and some tape. And then on the back was some ropes. Now, am I slow? Okay, am I slow? Because you don't need to be a law enforcement officer to realize that the rope was found around Angela's neck. Gloves is to protect your fingerprints. Tape is to subdue the person's mouth. Am I missing something here? Am I missing something here? Okay, you forensic scientists and technology buffs, ID buffs. He walks away and says, to this day, I don't feel that it was necessary to get. Then he says this. See, no accountability. Oh, I thought my other officers was doing it, but see, they was waiting for you. You must have been the honcho in charge. You must have been the leader in charge. You see the unethical failure of accountability? Then he gonna say through the picture, I wouldn't even open my mouth. I wouldn't have said nothing about, well, I told him. I wouldn't even, you wouldn't even interview me, because he told on himself. He said this. I didn't feel no reason to arrest him then. We didn't have enough. But did you think, then you're gonna say, well, I thought but they was waiting for you. See, no accountability. You gonna put on the other officer, but you the officer honcho in charge, FBI agent, whatever your name was. I'm gonna get your name too. Mike McComas. Yeah, you said still to this day, I didn't see no reason to arrest him. But guess what? It was okay, because when they got to finding some evidence on him, they think they found it on. Because remember, Wayne Williams did not get charged for them 29 children. He got charged for them too. Some kind of way on the trial, they're gonna tack on the fact that, well, more than likely, he is the killer. More than likely, he's the killer. More than likely, he is the killer. More than likely, he was the killer. So they attach it on some kind of way through DNA evidence. But wait a minute. Now, remember, there was beige fiber, but they had this. They had green fibers from his house. They had the German Shepherd fiber, and they had the violet fiber. Now, what happened to the beige fiber? So you got him, but you only got him on 2 charges. Wayne Williams, when he came out for his parole at the end of December, around December, somebody had went in, some station had went in, and she made a point. She's on the documentary. She said, well, there was only a 2% chance that he should have been in jail. But the fact is this. The reason why he didn't get on parole, because remember the guy that was 7 years old, that's grown? He said he remembered his face. And he was acting calm. His whole demeanor was the same as the FBI had noted. Mike McComas, the one that said he didn't see any issue on why. Oh, the guy was intimidated. So he had to be intimidated. So you in your narcissism. Oh, you miss Big Honcho. You want to see him in fear. But you never got the evidence. And then you said, oh, I thought the other officers got the evidence. Well, am I missing something here? Am I missing something here? It's clear to me, maybe you the Ku Klux Klan, because I'm thinking, oh, this is another thing. They said, oh, we infiltrated the FBI, we infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan, and we didn't find no activity. Well, excuse me, the last time I checked, the officers are still killing black unarmed men in broad daylight, in real time, like you did George Floyd. So now I'm thinking, what happened to the beige fiber? And then Chief Shields, former Chief Shields, who was getting the evidence of all the children, they said they had to dissect the evidence. And you know what they did? They probably threw that evidence away, or probably just put it all in one box. Oh, no, it could have been like Louisiana. Louisiana had a flood, and all the records of all the prisoners got lost. So you got murderers walking around because they don't have no records. So what happened to the records? What happened to the beige fiber? What happened to the violet fibers? What happened to the German Shepherd fibers? And then on top of that, you get him on some green fibers, and you only charge him with the 2 adults. He was never killing those 2 challenged young adults. He was never charged with those 29 murders of those children. So now you got mothers walking around with no closure, and Atlanta still going on with their life. And then we talk about years later. This is 2020, and then we see, oh, then I want to know, yes, where happened to the trace evidence? So we know that Ku Klux Klan has infiltrated. Oh, you just took off the white robe, and you took off your white cap, and you just put on the police officer's chief cap. You just put on a chief officer's police outfit. You just put on probation officer clothes. You just put on you took off the white robe, Ku Klux Klan robe, and you put on the chief of justice robe. That's all. You just took one uniform and you put on another. You infiltrated the whole entire penal system, justice system. You in Supreme Court. You in Congress. So tell me, America, what's wrong with that picture? That is so many levels of unethical, immoral, no accountability, no social responsibility. Didn't care because it was black kids. It was poor black kids. That's all matters. So anyway, we're going to see where the evidence go, because I want to know what happened to the beige fibers. Why you never followed up with that young man who seen that white man in the car, and then probably, hey, and then let's get with the green carpet, and I'm going to close. The green carpet fibers, if anybody know back in the 80s and 70s, my aunts and everybody I know had green carpet and had green couches. Now, the last ID show I remember, and Discovery show I remember, if somebody was found with a particular carpet, they will call that marketer or that person that produced that fiber and find out how many did they make. If they found a Ford white car, a Ford white truck, they will see how many Ford white trucks was made in that year or around that model. So with that being said, we're going to find some justice. I hope that trace, and don't be surprised if it's an officer. I'm just going to tell you. Now, I'm American, but I'm black. I'm a former sergeant, but I'm still black. So the thing is, I am on this platform because such a time as this, to speak loud and not to spare, and to cry loud and to pray for America and pray for America's leadership, to all this racial hate and bias be stopped and be squashed. And far as I'm concerned, y'all can just go ahead and give us our reparations, okay? Because you still got a genocide just like the Indians. The Indians were millions of people. Get rid of Columbus Day. And I'm done. But look at the documentary. It calls Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, and she's reopening the Atlanta child murders. It's a reopening of the case. Okay, God bless and be safe, America.